Time to rule adjourn our closed session and reconvene in open session. Matt, can you do this in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no action to report out from closed session. At this time, it is public comment period. Persons may speak on any item that is not listed on the agenda. Speakers are requested to fill out a speaker card and to state their name and address before addressing the board. Individual speakers are asked to limit their comments for any items not more than 3 minutes in order to allow everyone who wishes to speak the opportunity to do so. Groups are asked to limit their comments to a total of 10 minutes. The board shall limit the total time of public comment to 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. If additional time is needed, public comment will continue after the discussion items. Oh, and I also want to say that we are going to go back into closed session for our third item to finish discussion of that after our meeting. Okay, at this time we have, I have no public comments on non-agenda items. So this time, we will move to our next item, school program highlights, with a string musical performance by Delray Simmons.
Hello. So I thought it would be really fun to bring in the advanced strings today with the transition in the music program from our longtime teacher, David Ueno, to our new wonderful teacher, Gretchen Nielsen. These kids have been together for only a few months, and they are just doing fabulously. So let me introduce them. We have Abby Myers. You can wave at the board if I say your name. Abby Myers, Madeline Morris, Sam Ishikawa, Nicole Guo, Jack Riley, Selma Ahmed, and Neela Ahmed. Thank you so much for coming, and of course Gretchen Nielsen. They are going to be playing a canon by Henry Purcell and an arrangement of the Rondeau by Jean Joseph Moray.
Thank you so much. It is so evident in your concentration and in your performance how much you practice, but most important, how much you love playing your instrument. It's really a special treat for all of us. I am sure we want a picture, right? Want to get behind me?
So can I just tell you while you're doing that, I forgot to mention that we have 3 kids who joined us from Glorietta. So this is a combination with some Glorietta children and Delray children. So Glorietta wave, yeah, and then Delray. So we do have both groups. Parents, anybody want a photo op before they go?
Go ahead.
It's your opportunity.
I just want to add thank you to all the students and the teacher. I used to play in an orchestra myself when I was that age, so I just really love hearing your music. Thank you.
Performance, and we're going to do our recognition. Time we will do our recognitions, our Employees of the Month and Partner in Education for March 2016. First, we will recognize Sleepy Hollow kindergarten teacher Catherine Schiff as our certificated employee for the month of March 2016. Catherine Schiff has dedicated her entire professional career to elementary age students, and we are thrilled tonight to honor her as the district's March Certificated Employee of the Month. Kathy is the consummate professional who is always prepared, always collaborative, and always professional. It is, however, her absolute devotion to her students that characterizes the fullest extent of her exemplary teaching career. Kathy believes in her students, including students with special needs, whether those needs are large or small. Her advocacy for her students is tireless. Her teaching career will always be a shining example of the positive power and transformative force of a great teacher. Congratulations, Ms. Schiff. Recognize our classified employee for the month of March 2016, Elizabeth Stanton Ball, Delray Instructional Aide. It is a pleasure to recognize Elizabeth Stanton Ball as classified employee of the month for March. Elizabeth is a wonderful instructional assistant and copy clerk at Delray School. With a passion for kids and a hands-on jump-in approach, Elizabeth adds her special touch. She is creative and industrious, developing art centers, math stations, and recess games for Delray kindergarten students that integrate into the curriculum. She jumps in and helps wherever needed, whether it be in the front office, on the yard, or for special events like the talent show. Her organizational skills and willingness to help, her creativity and way with children make her a true asset to Delray Elementary School and to the district. Congratulations, Ms. Ball. And last we have Chip Patterson, Delray Parent Volunteer, who is our partner in education for the month of March 2016.
I don't see Chip here. Did he say he was?
I will still read on his behalf. Chip has led a team of volunteers in providing a quality lunch program at Delray for the past several years. The Dolphin Deli lunch program boasts a beautiful salad bar, hot daily entrees from local restaurants, soups, smoothies, and more. To make this work, Chip enlists and trains 140 parent volunteers a year. He stands up in front of any crowd, addressing them professionally and with humor as he describes the lunch program, its value to the school, and the importance of volunteering. He coordinates schedules, works with vendors, and manages all aspects of the lunch program. We thank him for his countless volunteer hours and for what he has done for the students of Delray School and for the district. Congratulations, Mr. Patterson. Okay, so at this time we have our information items or communications.
So we have some brief information and updates to share with the board. This is just a reminder that these are updates only to give you a snapshot of what's happening in our district. And I am looking for our OEA president.
I'm right here.
Charles, do you have any highlights for us today?
Kathy and her husband are talking about today, but I wanted to take a picture.
Good evening, members of the board, interim superintendent, Captain Marshall. I want to let you know that I too have been really concerned about the substitute issue that we've had. You know, we haven't had enough substitutes, so I contacted STIRS, and I'm happy to inform you that there is a waiver process for teachers who have newly retired. It says, due to the impact of teacher shortage and the difficulty in hiring qualified substitutes, I found out from CalSTRS Employer Information Circular that existing law provides for an exemption to the 180-day separation from service requirement imposed immediately after retirement, which means you'd be able to go through this waiver process and have our newly retired teachers come right back and substitute teach in the classroom. So I have a copy for each of you of the waiver because it's something that the board will have to consider. And I'll just give this to you. I know myself that I've had Nancy English substituting in my classroom. She's a retired kindergarten teacher from Gloria Elementary School, and my kids are always overjoyed to have her come in and be their substitute. So it's a real win-win for the district, and therefore they don't have to wait 180 days. So I'm very encouraged by that. I also want to say on April 19th, OEA will be meeting with the district to give LCAP input. It's our second meeting. We're very excited to come and share. Kathy Marshall has done a great job with that. She is reaching out to every site and meeting with teachers at their site. And she came to our OEA Rep Council meeting and spoke with us and clarified things that were not clear to us. So we really appreciate her coming to do that. And that's something new for us. We really have enjoyed the time that you've been interim superintendent, and we're sure that Carolyn Seaton will do the same thing. So you sound like you're gonna be a great team. On May 16th, we're actually meeting with Carolyn Seaton. So it's OEA's opportunity to sit down with her again. We've already met with her one time, and we had a great meeting with her. We're super excited. We just can't wait for her to start, although it's a little bittersweet because we're really enjoying the time that Kathy Marshall's been filling in for her. but we know the two of you, like I said earlier, are gonna be a dynamic duo, so, along with the rest of the district directors, so we're really looking forward to it. We really see a bright sun coming up over the horizon and shining on our district. OEA is even feeling a lot more positive these days, and we feel it at our meetings, and it's very encouraging. I think we are in some new times. Good, great things are gonna happen. They've been happening, but I can see a lot more happening, positive things happening for the district, so thank you for giving me this opportunity tonight, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, is Steve Waterman here, the CSEA president.
Hi, I'm Steve Waterman, CSEA president, and I wanted to reiterate those words. It was really a very different feeling negotiations that we had recently on the new contract. I'm not saying it was easy. It was still hard, but it was just a much nicer way of doing business. It just felt listened to, and it just felt very encouraging. And thank you, Cathy, for doing that, and for coming to our meeting to explain the MCAT. That was really great.
Thank you.
Thank you for your updates. So I have a few updates that I'll share with you. I didn't expect that when we would have updates that they would be full of accolades, so I'm humbled. But one of my updates
Take it.
was to also just say how exciting it has been to be sitting with staff in our district and really hearing from them directly what the needs are. Because if anyone knows what our needs are for next steps, it's all of us who have the different roles in the work that we do. And so it's really been quite an honor to be able to do that this year. With spring break, I hope everybody had a restful time, whether you got away or were just at home, for our staff included. I hope that it was a way to recharge batteries, right, for coming back on board. I want you to know that we have our EDK committee from last year. They have reconvened this year, and their work this year is really to get feedback from parents and kindergarten teachers at their site. They're meeting this week for us to review that feedback, and they'll be coming back with some recommendations. I'll be coming back with some recommendations in May as we proceed forward with extended day kindergarten for next year. This year, our grade level K-5 teachers have been meeting actually, not quarterly, but every trimester. Now that we have the new math adoption, they have been coming together as they can for half-day sessions. So we met in the fall, we met in the winter, and we had some grade levels meeting in March, and this coming week we have grades K1 and 2 who will be meeting as well. So as we've been moving through the year, we've been using these opportunities to check in with where we are and to make changes to our scope and sequence, and we'll continue that work as we plan for next year. This coming Friday for the elementary level is a half-day staff development day. OIS had their half-day in October, and so during that time when students have gone home, teachers will be working at their grade level on in several areas, long-range planning, department grade level focuses as well at OIS, and there'll be some CAS preparation as well in that process. We'll begin our planning for next year for our reading and writing focus, and so that will be happening with teachers as they get together, reps from each school site to come together. And we also met before the break with teachers focused on science, our Bayside teachers, and planning some summer training for June. I want to remind you that the Art Ambassadors exhibit is on this entire month at the Orinda Community Center. The reception is next Wednesday, I'm sorry, the 21st. Getting my weeks ahead, the 21st at 4:30. And lastly, next month Carolyn's going to be sitting where I am. So get ready.
Great, thank
Okay.
you.
We have a couple directors who have some updates they'd like to share. I'm going to invite Jen to come up and give a quick update, and then our facilities director, Stuart.
21st at 4:30?
Yes, 4:30.
So I have some good news to share. We nominated one of our classified employees to become Classified School Employee of the Year through the Contra Costa County Office of Education. They sponsor an award each year in various categories, and we nominated Mark Mortensen under Maintenance, Operations, and Facilities category, and he was chosen as an honoree. So we will be honoring him coming up Thursday, April 28th at 4 p.m. at the Contra Costa Office of Education. So congratulations to Mark. He is a maintenance craftsman with us, and we're very proud to have him.
We have been productive over spring break with a number of projects at Delray, Glorieta, Wagner Ranch, and OIS. I'm going to be very brief and show you some photos. Those are the projects at Delray. We removed a backstop for our solar project. That wasn't really consequential to our baseball program. At Glorieta, we had some, I would call, heroic parent club members who put together boxes, for planter boxes, and there was a contractor that made some very wonderful renovations. So we're looking forward to a spectacular garden at Glorieta. They're nearly complete with it. It's looking great. At Wagner Ranch, we did succeed in getting the playground slope paved behind the kindergarten portable. We got a new tough shed. Actually, we ordered a used one, but they gave us a new one at less than the price of a new one. And and that was in a consequence of our tearing down the Wagner Ranch Nature Area portable. And finally, at OIS, we had some rooftop electrical conduit installed, and the ADA sidewalk was installed. I'm going to show you some quick pictures of those things. There's our Glorieta garden in progress. Looks, that was taken a few days ago, so it's progressed since that picture was taken. This is the area behind the portable that was repaved, and the playground slope eliminated at significantly reduced cost to the district. The new tough shed at Wagner Ranch, in the nature area. It's 8 by 12, so it's quite adequate for storing things. This is the destruction of the portable, including a little dust and a slide to the left. It's now leveled completely, and if you drive by there, you'll see we have a nice natural area there. Conduit being installed at OIS. It's a lot more than that. That's for a solar, takes it from the solar array to the switchgear, which is located toward the multi-purpose building. And a sidewalk which will allow the wheelchairs to roll from the parking lot where they're dropped off. And there's a little pad there for their picnic table, so our special ed kids have a sort of outdoor space they've been hoping for some time, I understand. So, thank you.
At this time, we will move to our consent calendar. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and are acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There is no discussion of these items before the vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. It is understood that the administration recommends approval on all consent items. Each item approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. And I am pulling item K, which has been modified, so we're gonna move that to the end of our action item. We have a motion on consent.
I move we adopt the consent calendar, pulling item K and moving that to the last item under action.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Jason, do you have a vote?
I have an aye.
You're an aye. Thank you. It's unanimous. Okay, this time we'll move to action item A, resolution 1608, California Day of the Teacher, May 11th, 2016.
It's my pleasure to present the following two resolutions this evening. Tonight, we would like to recognize and honor all our employees who make a positive difference in the lives of students every day. The first resolution is to honor our talented and dedicated teachers. A teacher's more than an educator. Teachers are nurturers, mentors, role models, counselors, and friends. They shape and change lives. We would like to declare through this resolution that we honor our teachers on California Day of the Teacher, Wednesday, May 11, 2016.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any comments from the public? Okay. This item is on for action. And it's,
I move that we adopt action item A, resolution 1608, California Day of the Teacher.
Second?
I will second.
you're too late.
Say aye.
It's a roll call, so.
Jason?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Mara?
Aye.
Carol? Julie?
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you.
The second resolution is to recognize the hard work and dedication that our classified school employees bring to their job every single day, supporting the students and the staff of the Orinda Union School District. Classified employees are vital staff members who play key roles in creating an environment that promotes student achievement, safety, and health. We would like to declare through this resolution that we honor all our classified school employees during the week of May 15th to 21st, 2016.
Anybody else? No,
Yes, she did.
Are there any questions from the board? That's okay. Okay, are there any comments from the public? Okay, back to the board.
I move that we approve resolution 1609, classified school employee week, May 15 to 21, 2016.
Second?
Jason?
It's another roll call.
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Mara?
Aye.
Carol? Julie?
Aye. Okay, so resolution 1609 passes 5-0. On to action item C, 2014-15 to 2016-17 tentative bargaining agreement between OUSD and CSEA.
Good evening. The CSEA bargaining group and districts has reached an agreement and is consistent with the other groups that have settled. This is our last group to reach, to have all of our groups now being settled through the year 16-17. I'm glad to report. And the CSEA has ratified. The County Office of Education has reviewed the AB 1200 and has approved. And now we're just looking for a recommendation from the board to approve the 14-15, 15-16, and 16-17 tentative agreement between CSEA and the Orinda School District.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
I just want to say thank you, Teresa, for all your work on this, and thank you to the staff members who participated with you in meetings regarding this. Thank you.
And just to clarify, this is basically a Me Too agreement,
Yes.
providing the same increases that we provided to our teachers.
Yes, it is a similar agreement. It is a 3-year agreement with a 1.5% for 14-15, 1.5% for 15-16, and 1% for 16-17. And also each year, there will be a one-time compensation of $1,324 each year based on the FTE.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Any comments from the public? Okay, this is back to the board for action.
I move that we approve the CSEA California School Employees Association tentative agreement.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move on to action item D, Fund 40 and developer fees, recommended priority projects for facilities and technologies.
We don't have a PowerPoint for this presentation, but I want to begin by saying that the Fund 40 projects and the developer fee projects shown here will all come back to the board. Anything on the list shown for each school and the attachments for the attachments will come back to the board for consideration over the course of the next year. So what we're doing is looking at what remains on the list of Fund 40 items where we have about $9.5 million available, and we're recommending that the board review those things and make a determination about which ones of these projects to approve to give us some guidance as we go forward. There are in particular several projects which warrant immediate action, like the painting of all the schools, which the board has said they want it done, but we haven't formally approved the painting project. And the stopgap measures, which would mitigate our heating and cooling issues during the upcoming hot seasons. And of course, there's some technology issues which my colleague Raymond Marr will address shortly. Developer fees include a number of items that are listed, including the Wagner Ranch kindergarten playground, new spaces at Glorieta to accommodate kindergarten growth. And I'd like to just digress for a minute and say that we looked at a number of proposals to address this problem, and may have come up with a creative solution. The $750,000 was to renovate a space that is across from the office that currently is a space used for lunchroom for the teachers and special class. You gotta help me here. What's the name of the classes that meet in that room? Do you know? Right by the office there. I forgot. The special ed. Sorry. Okay. But
IEP meetings, student study team meetings?
yeah.
Resource
It's a resource area. So we were thinking about redoing that since it has a potential access to the kindergarten playground, but that's the $750,000. But since that time, we've looked at replacing building number 4, which is not even on this list, which is a kindergarten room, and installing a double classroom in that same space. In other words, demolishing that number 4 playground, which was also built in the 60s, and then replacing it with a larger 48 by 40 classroom, which would accommodate the kindergarten growth, since we would need to replace that number 4 kindergarten building anyway. So it would be cost-effective solution for their growth issues and would save us this $750,000.
What would be the cost of that?
Right now I'm looking at about $400,000 for the thing. It's under that, but it's a high number for $400,000. But that's basically $200,000 a classroom, so since we're getting two. We also included on the list for developer fees $750,000 for what we call the 21st century modular classrooms at Del Rey, which looks like we can't really get started on that till next year, so that's down the road, and the board will have a chance to revisit that long before that, but we'll be able to look at that again. So we have the resources to do these things. It's just a matter of presenting the whole list to the board and having you give us some direction on what kinds of items you would be interested in approving. Wanted to say too that the kindergarten playground number, which was 500,000, was a number that I estimated many months ago as to what I thought it would take, and we've been getting some numbers since then which suggested it will be far less than that. So we will bring back to the board, and I'll present that in a minute when we talk about the playground, where a process involves the board looking at the contracts and looking at CMAS purchases, which is California Mutual Purchasing Program, that would cut the cost by 20% because we'd be using the state CMAS process. So a lot of ways that we can save money on that project so it wouldn't cost quite so much. And we still have to go out to bid, and the board will still have an opportunity to review the elements at the next board meeting in order to see if there's some elements you'd like not to include or to include, or to give you a chance to review that. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So I'd like to ask Raymond to come up now and to talk about the technology part of this Fund 40 program. He has a list. It's the first item on 191 of your board agenda.
So here, the list provided in the board packet contain two projects that were previously approved with the cabling and IDF upgrades and paging system upgrades. We're currently working through the process of getting quotes for the core network infrastructure upgrades and wireless network upgrades that were proposed as high priority items for technology projects. Last Friday we did our first walkthrough with the vendor to scope out our cabling and wireless network infrastructure needs. And so we will be working towards bringing some contracts to the next board meeting if these were approved tonight. Currently, all the costs that you see listed are estimates, and we're currently working towards getting some hard numbers from various vendors.
So it's my understanding that based on our last meeting, we decided to kind of basically put on hold the paging system upgrades, even though we had previously approved that quite a while ago. So is that everyone else's understanding? Is that kind of what we're operating on right now? Where we were going to move forward with the two new projects that you had recommended at the last meeting, which are the top two items which you're asking for official approval for tonight. Continue forward on the cabling and IDF upgrades, but put on hold the paging system upgrades. Is that basically your recommendation?
No, I think from our last board meeting, I was going to come back and bring back some of my findings on the reasoning behind the paging system upgrades.
Okay.
I've since looked at that, and originally it was more of a safety need, where principals felt that it was important to have the ability to communicate across their school sites effectively, especially in a time of emergency. And then looking at the paging system upgrade, currently the estimate is fairly low in dollar value relative to what's available in the Fund 40 available balance. So I think it's still a valuable project to look at adopting. As we're doing our cabling walkthrough, we're still asking the vendors to scope out cabling for additional network drops for both the paging system as well as for potentially additional security cameras. So.
Okay.
Raymond, when we talk about these planned cost amounts, in the past, when we've looked at stuff like this, we've considered those placeholders. Are we still at placeholder level, or do you feel like these numbers are pretty realistic within 20% or something?
I think for the core network infrastructure and wireless network upgrades, I think we're fairly close. We have a pretty good idea of what the market prices for the equipment are, so I think we're pretty close. With respect to the cabling and IDF upgrades and the paging system upgrades, those estimates were done roughly in the 2013 timeframe. So prices for equipment and labor and materials will have the potential to be changed. So we're gonna bring those back. So.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions also. And one is, yes, and I remember the same thing Julie mentioned about the paging system, not the board last time feeling like maybe it wouldn't be prioritized. Even if we go ahead with all 4 of these, I don't know if, could you say something about you can't possibly do all this work all at once, and I assume you're going to prioritize and schedule these things in a logical manner.
Right. And so because we're basically redoing the entire infrastructure, we're going to do it in a very planned and methodical approach. There will be some things that will have multiple projects going on at the same time. So, for example, our wireless network upgrades, we're going to install it over existing cabling. Because we need to get a new wireless system in place, regardless of the cabling work. The cabling work tends to be a little bit more labor intensive and potentially a longer time frame, and so we want to get the wireless in place, before school starts. And then with cabling, sometimes as with any type of facilities projects, there's definitely a longer time frame for that. With the core network infrastructure upgrades, we'll be doing them and bringing those online as soon as sites are capable of handling the new equipment. So when we look at our core data center, that's ready for implementation right away. And then as some of our other sites, it'll be dependent upon the cabling and the IDF upgrades to make those facilities capable of handling the newer equipment.
Okay, and 2 other things, I noticed on a couple of the school lists, like for example, Glorietta, it says technology upgrades. So do I assume that that's already incorporated in what's on the other page here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And lastly, so if you come back to us, I think you said it, but I don't remember. You're going to come back to us with contracts, and is that like next month or?
Yeah, so we're looking to bring the core network infrastructure upgrade and wireless network upgrades to the board in the next board meeting.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? I have some questions for Stuart. So my sense is that we've approved, in theory at least, the painting of the exteriors, for example, and really we're just waiting for the specific contracts to approve.
Correct.
So I just want to
That is
clarify.
correct, but the board has never officially like approved them as a Fund 40 project, but just that, you know,
Okay,
approval.
so,
You said, you know, this is a good thing to do, but never, there hasn't been a vote to say.
okay. And then on the boiler replacements, now that you're saying that it's not really Prop 39, or Prop 39 money wouldn't make sense, so is it necessary to still continue with the boiler replacements? I mean, what's the, you know, I forget the original impetus for all that because it was so long
They're
ago.
aging and they're, you know, have been around for a very long time and they need, they're inefficient. That's a huge thing, the inefficiency.
So we still want to replace them, but using Prop 39 funds
That's
is not
correct.
the best.
And it was originally on the list for Prop 40, I mean Fund 40.
Yes.
So we're just,
Putting it back there.
we're going to go back to doing, we had hoped to save Fund $40 by using Prop 39 dollars, but as it turns out, it's just more cost effective for us to use Prop 39 dollars for Prop 39 projects, because they have this wonderful concept called savings to investment ratio, the SIR, and there's a formula, and if you violate that formula, then we have to use district funds to make up the difference. So the goal here is to not use district funds, just use Prop 39 funds for Prop 39 projects. So.
Okay. Okay, and you know, I guess my feeling on the stopgap measures on the cooling is sort of a similar thing to the painting where we want it done. We just
Right.
don't know what the cost is, so we're waiting
Right.
for.
Well, I've got, you know, some preliminary numbers. For example, originally I believe I said the whole thing would cost $240,000. That included quite a bit for the air conditioning units, individual units, and I was able to get a bid from the manufacturer, which instead of a much larger number, we got it down to $66,000 to buy 200 of them. So, which is pretty reasonable. The number was much higher but we went directly to the manufacturer and said, what's the best price can we get from you? So, that project should be more cost effective too, but I can come back to you with specifics on those costs. You know, we've got some numbers we're getting for the film. We talked with all the principals at all the schools and did a kind of survey of what they wanted and know how many they want in which classrooms. And as I mentioned at an earlier board meeting with the help of Charles Shannon, we did a walkthrough at Glorietta. So I've got good numbers for how many we need and where we need the film. The only place we actually need that window film is at Wagner Ranch. And we've got various places where ceiling fans are going to be needed, but it's going to be much, much less than 240. It'll probably be in the range of 150 maybe when we're all done.
So Stuart, when I saw just stopgap measures at OAS, I see on here 348,000, and I see you list 487 portable air.
That was before I got the bid from the... And the other thing was that, if I can interrupt you, sir,
yeah.
was that that was based on the principal's assessment of how many portable units would be needed, and I don't really think we need that many. So we'll revisit that too.
Great.
And I'm not clear, you said that was before you got the bid, so what are you thinking now for OAS?
Probably 2/3 of what they've requested, you know, or half. The principal, I don't know if he's here or not, he was talking about 4 or 5 of them in some of the rooms, and we don't need that many. That's just not needed. So we started with what he requested, but it's my assessment it's not needed. The other thing that that impacts this is that we're proposing, when we install them, to use the existing HVAC circuit and put them on a digital control so we can turn them off. They don't get left on when they're not needed. We can turn them on when they are needed, so we don't tax our solar array system with that additional burden of HVAC, of AC units. to control the use, so it's not just they're not just left running, and they're not running when they're not needed.
Yeah, so I mean, just to follow up on that particular issue, I mean, that number of AC units at OAS is very significant, and the cost, even though the school's a lot bigger. So, you know, and while you said any particular project would come back to us, I also want to make sure we're doing what makes sense. I absolutely want the classrooms cooled at OAS, but I think that it doesn't mention ceiling fans or whatever. It doesn't mention fans here at OAS. So I don't know if that was ruled out. I would hope that we could, you know, consider anything like that that could help with the, you know, in addition to air conditioning units, and that we can be efficient about it.
Agreed.
Is there a reason it doesn't say ceiling fans or?
Well, the principal did not specify those as needed. He just talked about putting in the air conditioning.
The air conditioning units, okay, because some of the other schools it does mention and ceiling fans.
Mhm.
So I, you know,
Some-
even though the principal
some
didn't
thought-
mention it, I think that
some-
we should look at that and
Okay,
consider ceiling fans for that site as well.
okay, we will do that.
Stuart, can you address a little bit, or maybe it's Teresa, about the developer fees? And I know we've had most of that money for quite a while. I just was wondering if you have a sense of how much we add to that every year? You know, so that if we are spending it down, what do we anticipate replenishing it with?
Yes, you are correct. The majority of the monies we received were quite some time ago, before 2010. But we've been receiving anywhere from the low of $90,000 to a high of $467,000 since 2010-11. But as of this year, in 15-16, we've only received $126,000. So it does fluctuate. We only had that 1 year where it was $467,000. So it was like $93,000, $113,000, $200,000. So we haven't, or we will not receive large quantities of developer fees like we have from the large housing development projects. We don't anticipate any large projects being built.
Okay.
And can I follow up on that? It's my understanding that the developer fees we need to use for where we have enrollment growth, and that's why we have developer fees, because we have enrollment growth, and we need to use it for projects that address the enrollment growth. So I think it's important for us to understand that, and
Yes, spending the developer fees must be growth related. Anything that has an impact on the growth that we're experiencing within the district.
And it seems, you know, not to get too picky here, we obviously have a lot of projects that need to happen, but from, you know, I've tried to look at the last 5 years of where we have had enrollment growth, and also we have that study showing where, the demographic study showing where they predict we're going to continue to having growth, and the 2 schools that came up that showed the most enrollment growth was Wagner Ranch and Glorietta. I know we're supposed to get another study, right, the contract we approved in December. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about that, but.
Is this the developer fee study or the?
Yeah, the developer, well, I just mentioned 2 different things. The demographic study, which is on our website, shows Wagner Ranch and Glorietta, that's the demographic study. The developer fee study is the one that's supposed to come out soon, that we approved the contract for in December.
Yes. The developer fee report will be on the next board meeting in order for us to charge a new rate per square footage. Each year, the state allocation board on even number years approves a new rate, and in order for us to charge a new rate, we must have a developer fee study done to show that the need exists due to many different factors, including the cost of what it takes to keep up with any changes, enrollment, anything growth related. The other report, which is the demographics, will be done after we close our books for the 15-16 year. And I believe that's every 3 years, if I remember correctly. But that one will be coming to the board probably in December, by the time they finish that one.
Next December.
Yes, this coming December 2016.
Okay. So I guess the reason I brought this up is because I think it's important before we decide how to spend developer fee funds that we understand that it has to be tied to enrollment growth. And so the projects we have listed for developer fee funds, we clearly need to be in that category. And I feel like we as a board should be prioritizing how we're spending our developer fee money first, before we just consider whether we want to do certain projects with it. So, you know, I know, so just speaking in terms of that, I just want to bring up, I know Stuart already mentioned a possible solution at Glorietta, but I know Glorietta has had enrollment growth and is without, is short of a classroom, and that's, my understanding of why they haven't had a TK class there, because there would be no classroom to put it in. So I feel like that's a very...
Is the enrollment growth district-wide that you're basing developer fees on, or site-specific? Because if you have a declining enrollment overall, can't you shift students to different locations?
The developer fee report actually is an analysis of the overall district. It doesn't specifically hit pockets, because the pockets can change, over a course of time, where you have this huge surge of maybe kinder students, which require a different type of portable or classroom versus an upper grade. The developer fee study is only showing the ability to charge a higher rate.
Mm-hmm.
And
but when you're spending the developer fees.
Oh, spending the developer fees, you just need to show that it is growth related at that point in time. So if you're having an issue at a campus like we had at Wagner Ranch, we put in a new portable because they added the TK program. That was growth related, and we put in a portable. Now, who's to say that TK numbers will go down, and we may have to use that portable for other reasons, but at that moment in time, we did justify the growth to put that portable in.
And we have a justification for using the developer fees for the STEM classrooms at Del Rey?
Yes, that's what I want to speak to. There is a ruling. I went to a state convention of cash last month and asked that very question, and they said, the developer fee experts and lawyers there said that we can use developer fees to replace buildings that we take out of service, which is the basis for doing that. We could do it in the same way that we could do that at Glorietta. We take those 8, 9, and 4 out of service, we can replace them and use developer fees for that purpose. Because it's not growth per se, but it's a valid use of those funds.
Can I just comment on that though? If you're saying we could take them out of service, I also read something, I did a little reading about developer fees on the internet, and I read where it said you have to ask yourself, is this this project is growth related? In other words, if you didn't have enrollment growth, would you still be doing this project or not? So like replacing those portables, we're using like the 3 at Glorieta, we're using them right now for classrooms. So by replacing them, we need to do that anyway because they've already been identified as really old and needing to be replaced. But adding a classroom to me is the most, in terms of prioritizing, is the most important top priority first before we're replacing portables, especially those that, at Glorieta, all 3 of those really old ones are used for classrooms, but at another school maybe they're not, but we still need to replace them.
They are being used, and they're older than the Glorieta ones, except for room 4. So I can see the benefit of.
At Del Rey, actually, I found
Del Rey ones are from the 60s, the 8 and 9 are from the 70s, 4 is from the 60s.
No, 8 and 9 are also from the 60s. I mean, I looked it up 2 years ago.
Not according to our portable analysis.
Well, I'll pass you down the thing, I looked it up today.
In any event,
shows that they're
we've had the
all
Del Rey
from the 60s.
portables as a priority for years.
Yeah, well,
And I
and the
agree
Glorieta
that room
portables,
4
as part of- I mean, I don't want to sit here and argue about Del Rey versus Glorieta, that's not the point here. This was the list that we got in the board packet 2 years ago, 2014. I made a few copies that I hadn't written on. Here, where's that? Pass that down to Julie, please. So,
Carol,
you
do
know,
you want to say something?
this is what Ed had presented to us in 2014, February. It shows here that there's 3 Glorieta portables that are built in the 60s, 4 Del Rey portables built in the 60s. From my understanding, only one of those Glorieta portables is used as a regular classroom. That doesn't mean the other ones aren't used. It's office learning center, annex, whatever. Sure, they all need to be replaced, but the point I was trying to bring up about Glorieta is that Glorieta doesn't have enough classrooms right now, and they need an additional classroom. And adding an additional classroom seems to me, if we have enrollment growth at that school, a priority over.
But if we have declining enrollment overall, we could be shifting students in that one grade that, I'm just saying, I'm not saying what we're doing and what we're not doing, but I'm saying if you have declining enrollment in space in another school, it's not unheard of to say, okay, these kids have to, these kindergarten kids have to go to a different site for a year. We do that all the time, so it's not automatically, oh, we need a new classroom. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but look at the facility needs the total district.
Exactly.
Capacity-
That's why I'm saying,
capacity of the
showing
whole
declining enrollment overall, that does show that you have space in your school sites.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but, so you're saying, yes, overall, if you look at the whole district, then maybe we have space at a different school. But if we are gonna look at it that way and say it's okay to continue to not have an extra class, not add a classroom at Glorieta and continue to defer the kindergarten and TK students that might make it over capacity, then we have to really address the TK intervention issue. But which is a separate issue from this, but I mean, we do have, spillover problems because there's been no TK at Glorieta, and there isn't any space to put TK at Glorieta. And I don't know the total numbers, what we're looking at for the district in terms of elementary students district-wide, but I think it's really important that we address this.
Stuart, did I understand you to say that now you're thinking of replacing room 8 and 9 and building 4?
That's correct.
And it's also my understanding that when you put in these 21st century modular classrooms, which are significantly better than the portables, that they also add square footage, so there would be more space.
That's
than
correct.
it currently exists.
That's-
So we'd be creating space.
That's correct. We classroom spaces. There is a real need, according to the principal, for that classroom space at Del Rey. And I'm hoping to come back to the board at the next board meeting and recommend, for the short term, actually, that we replace this summer that number 4 building at Glorietta. Because what happened was that earlier this year, the principal said, I think we're going to need more space. Then they came back and said, no, doesn't look like we're going to need space. And they recently came back and said, looks like we're going to need space. So I got mixed messages. I wanted to get a much earlier start, in honesty. Now, it's feasible for us to do it this summer to meet that need that's there. But understand that in a few days, we will get some real numbers about growth and enrollment. When we have our meeting with the leadership team. So we'll have some accurate information on where we're going. And I think that information will include growth at Glorietta. So what I'm gearing up to do is coming back to the board at the next board meeting and asking for developer fee funds for that double classroom building at Glorietta. At least I think we can get that done. Don't think we can get done 7 and 8 this year, but we just crane it in.
Why wouldn't 7 and, or 8 and 9, why wouldn't 8 and 9, when 8 and 9 are ultimately replaced, why wouldn't they possibly be part of the 21st century?
They very well could be, and we would, but then we would have time to present to the board a proposal to do.
Replacing 4 seems more urgent if you do need classroom space, because that would leave you 2 classrooms for the.
Well, it's not inconceivable we could do both Delray and Glorietta next year.
Right, but you're saying they're not available this year.
They're not available this year.
Right.
But it would be a good plan to do both Glorietta and Delray next year. I think that'd be a great plan with the 21st century buildings.
Do you have any other questions on the board?
Yeah, to clarify what you just said, room 4 and, whatever you said could happen this summer, are you talking about replacing it then with a regular portable? Not the
well, a portable
21st
that's
century modular
48, not a 21st century unit. One similar to the one we put in at Wagner Ranch, only bigger. 48 by 40 with a dividing wall that can be opened or closed. You can make it one big classroom or 2 small classrooms, or gives you options. But the building could house 2 kindergarten classrooms. It's one building.
And so there's one there now, so
But it's
I
smaller.
assume you would be pushing toward the upper parking lot into that gravel
Yeah, there's
area?
enough room to put a larger building in that spot.
And would it be twice as big as a regular kindergarten classroom?
Regular classrooms
The
typically
Wagner
are
Ranch portable?
24 by 40. And this is 48 by 40. So it's
Well,
virtually double.
that would be great to make that possible this summer. I think that's what you said.
Yeah, I would come back to the board and ask for your approval to do that. I think it's possible to do it. The final information is going to be with us in a couple of days about what the need is.
Yeah, of course, but this is on our agenda now, so we
Right,
have to
it's on
consider
your agenda now, we're just.
whatever's going on.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Well, yeah, I do have another question or just comment about this related to the developer fee thing that we're just talking about, which is, the Wagner Ranch kindergarten, that this is back to us for the first time after we just approved the contract, just for the audience's information. We approved the contract for the architect, and now it's on our agenda again for the first time. But,
Yeah, are you moving on to the kindergarten?
No, it's on the Fund 40 list under developer projects. So I just wanted to point out that if we're going to use developer fees for that, my assumption is that it would be for the expansion. And, I do have a little bit of trouble with 2, parts about that item being 500,000 out of developer fees.
Seems like maybe we should be talking about that in the next item.
Well, okay, but, no, I'm not really okay with that because it is on this list as a budget item. And I just want to say something, and I'm not going to talk on it forever. I just want to say that, you know, in terms of developer fees, to me, the project is a lot more than expansion. And so I question whether 500,000 of that project is really about expansion. And I also just want to raise the issue, if we use 500,000 of developer fees for that project, we're sort of setting a new precedent in terms of the district paying for play structures, which in the past, and I don't know if Stuart, anyone has mentioned this, but in the past, it was very typical of a school to not have a new play structure unless the parents club was going to raise money. And so, you know, it sort of sets a precedent. Are we then going to upgrade other play structures when there's enrollment growth at other schools? You know, it is something we need to think about in terms of that. So that's what I wanted to say right then.
If I may, last year, about $200,000 of Fund 40 was used for the new play structure and surfacing at Glorietta. That directly came from Fund 40.
That's not accurate.
Well, we
That's what,
also
according
got,
to our financial records upstairs.
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay,
But-
please.
You know, we're not at public comment yet, but when we are,
Okay.
yeah. Jason, did you have any questions for, on this item?
I do not.
Okay.
I just want to add to that, I know the district paid for the surfacing and of the playground at Glorietta last year, but I also know the Parents Club paid, I was told, roughly $100,000 for the play structure itself. So that's why, if they're gonna pay $100,000 for a play structure, you know, we're setting a different precedent now by, I don't know if anyone, you know, discussed
Can we
this
just
at WAC or
maybe
not.
stick to the agenda? I know it's on here as a list item, but it's on there just because all the projects are on there, and we have it as a separate agenda item, so I think that's probably a better time to have this discussion. I'm gonna take this, yeah.
I'm just looking for clarification. So at this page 2 of the agenda bill, I see financial considerations and I see a recommendation. So I'm just curious as far as process, are we gonna go through the list line by line? I mean, are we looking for a blanket approval? I'm not clear on process and what we're looking to do right now.
I personally think we need to look and pick out which items we're looking to make sure we're approving to move forward.
And so, you know, I look on page 1, just looking at the background, we have 3 bullet points on page 1 of the agenda bill: painting the exteriors of all schools, stopgap measures for cooling classrooms, and technology infrastructure projects. Is that kind of what you're saying as far as the focus?
Yes, I want to, definitely address those. And, you know, if there are other items that we want to move forward, and I think we should pick them. In my mind, this is a list of all our Fund 40 projects as of this date.
Yeah.
Some have been approved, some have not. It's time for us to revisit it and make sure that we have clarity on what we're approving to move forward to the next phase of getting contracts brought to us, and, you know, returns will just sort of continue to move forward on the list as we revisit it, you know, in time.
So do you see us going line by line, school by school? I'm just trying to I'm trying to wrap my head around how to look at it.
I thought what Stuart was saying was that he wanted us to take a look at this list and say, yes, these are all projects that could be paid for under Fund 40, and then correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart, and then he's gonna come back individually and have us approve individual projects as.
Well, that
That's
would
correct.
seem to me that he's been getting contracts for all those, which how we've done this in the past is we've had this list. We approve, let's move forward on the safety items off of the huge list, and we move forward, and those items get put onto the in progress or completed list, and we keep moving forward, approving projects, knowing, you know, looking at what we can accomplish, you know, within the next 6 months, within the next year, and sort of keeping a rolling list of things that we're moving forward on. You know, rather than saying, yes, we have $9 million, let's spend it all tonight.
Right, and so if we were to approve this list, I would see it that, yes, we're telling him to go ahead, and I'm really not comfortable approving the whole list. So I like Matt's comment about maybe we need to agree on what we're prioritizing and approve those
I
things.
guess my idea is that I don't know that it requires us to go line by line.
Okay.
We can if you're, if that's something
No,
you want
I'm
to
just
do.
more asking how you're envisioning.
But my thought would be to, say, for example, look at the technology projects and say, okay, are we approving these to move forward?
Good.
You know, the exterior painting, making it clear that yes, we are looking for those contracts. Things like that.
Okay.
Rather than, and then those items would get moved, you know, have a comment in them that we're moving forward on those, and then we revisit some of the items over time.
Okay.
Okay?
That makes sense. The technology items seem to be easier going by
Just want to go to public
schools.
comment if we're,
Oh, what?
I just would like to go to public comment if
Okay.
there are any questions.
All right, that's fine.
This time we'll ask for public comment.
And looking at the Fund 40, it makes me think that we need to look at long-range planning, because when I reflect back and I looked over at the Televerde report, he said there really isn't anything we can do to the envelope of the building that will make much of a difference. And we have to think about when we plan on going out for a bond measure and replacing these buildings, because we don't want to replace a building where we've spent a lot of money on double pane windows, which I see in the report, I see on this list, and I'm not understanding why some things are highlighted and some things are not. They're shading and non-shading.
Those are principal recommended projects.
Okay. And then I inquired about the principal recommended projects, and what I heard the process is, which isn't making much sense to me, is principals weren't necessarily in the room, and I identified projects, and I know that they weren't because I keep track of principals who are here at the meetings. They didn't hear the Televerde report, and yet they're saying, well, at Glorieta we need double pane windows. But if you look at the report, the experts were saying it's not going to make much of a difference, and it's at a huge cost. It's $250,000 at Glorieta to replace all our windows. So I just want to make sure that we make Carolyn Seaton aware that if we don't look at this long term, we might be spending money unnecessarily if we plan on replacing those buildings. And if we don't have proper insulation in the walls, what we heard from Televerde is it doesn't make sense to put in double pane windows. Now, the one stopgap that we thought would make sense would be to have some portable air conditioning units, because it would bring the temperatures down to a more, it wouldn't bring it down to the ASHRAE standard necessarily, because they talked about the ASHRAE standard, that temperature that's more conducive for learning and thinking. But it would bring it down and make it more bearable for us. Even if it only brought it down 5, 6, 7 degrees, it would be better than what it is on those really hot days. So it's not perfect, but it was a temporary, not a complete solution, but to help give teachers and students and our, just our classified staff some relief and not working in 90 and above degree room temperatures. So I really urge the board, we need to do some long-range planning. I'd hate to see us spend money that we then tear out because we replaced the building, or it didn't make much difference for room temperature because we should have paid attention to the Televerde report. So please think this through. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Kimberger. I'm the parent at Glorieta and current GBC president. I wanted to address one issue, which was the intervention in the TK that was brought up in comment by the board. Next year will be the third year that Glorieta does not have transitional kindergarten. It's not looking promising. The issue is that the other sites have been able to provide their students with a credentialed teacher to teach or provide intervention for their students, the lower grade intervention program. We haven't been given that opportunity. It's been due to space issues, and roughly 11 students, I think, or 13 students this year have been shipped off to other locations. Delray and Sleepy Hollow primarily, and those locations have had the space to accommodate those students. What that equates to is, I think, roughly 10 hours of credentialed teacher time that our site is not able to, it is not afforded. And I think that that is a disservice to our students, who an aide is not the same as a credentialed student, even if it is a certified aide. I think I wish that you would please, I guess, help Gloria solve their space issues that would allow even, a rotation of a transitional kindergarten to Gloria. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? You've already had your turn.
I was going to ask, if I didn't take up all my time, I'm allowed to come up and complete my time and say something really quick? I don't know the protocol for that.
You did finish your time.
Oh, I did? I didn't hear it.
Complete your time. I think it was over here. Maybe you can do it on the next.
I have 5 seconds.
You have 5 seconds.
I just want to say, you were saying the modular, you can make bigger buildings, but there's 20 to 1, so even if you have a larger building, you're not going to fit in more kids because we have that class size. 20 to 1.
Now back to the board. Just my initial thoughts are, that we make clear that we do want the painting of the exteriors of the schools, hopefully this summer. Is my hope and dream and understanding. So we do have consensus on that. I'd like to officially take action on that, as well as on the stopgap measures, although we've been waiting for a cost on that. But I mean, in my mind, we've already said we did want to move forward with that.
So I have a question. Do you want us to ask questions as we go along, or what? I just wanted to ask, what about color? Not that we need to worry about it, but are we considering what color? Is somebody looking at that before
Yes.
we, okay. What's the process for that?
Talked to the principals, asked them to give me some feedback on colors, and they gave me some feedback on colors they thought we would like to see. That hasn't been decided yet. Some, for example, OIS wanted to have a bulldog blue and silver, color. Delray wanted a kind of more earth tones on the body of the building, or beige, environmental green. They haven't been firmly decided, but we've got some kind of direction.
Well, I guess I was assuming we were still gonna have them all the same color. We don't have to, but, it seems like the color is a really important part of the look of the school. It's great to ask the principals, but it seems like we should also be asking some sort of color consultant. We're spending a lot of money on this. There may be different shades of blue and gray and whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't wanna micromanage here, but we're gonna spend a lot of money on the color, and I just wanted to suggest that.
So Julie, on the stopgap measures, we've heard a lot of different numbers. I guess my fear would be that Stuart would go out, my hope is Stuart would go out and get prices and bring them back to the board. What I fear is I'd see an approved contract in the consent calendar, and then we'd be essentially have already signed a contract. So I'm not comfortable with that part.
Okay, so we certainly want you to come back with a legitimate cost estimate district-wide for the stopgap measures. So we want you to continue pursuing that. On the technology infrastructure project.
Wait, question, is that gonna slow this down because we're talking about air conditioners and the hot weather's coming up? I mean, I don't know that they're gonna be in June, or we're talking about September, but, I mean, I agree with Matt. I don't wanna just see a contract come back, but, there's different ways of ceiling fans versus air conditioning, and maybe, I don't know if you're gonna have a real specific scope there. I don't know if you could say something about it, or you're gonna ask Terra Verity or what, but, how do we know we're not wasting money by spending a ton of money on air conditioners? I would just feel better if we had some sort of input on what makes the most sense, efficiency-wise, in terms of using fans and air conditioners. And then,
Hasn't that been what Stuart's been working on?
well, he just told us a few minutes ago that, for example, at OAS, it didn't mention fans because the principal didn't request fans. So what I'm saying is, you know, we have all these experts in the past about temperature control. You know, wouldn't we want to do what's most efficient? I wouldn't assume that our principals are the expert on temperature control, not that we shouldn't ask them, but I'm saying this isn't that simple.
I thought Stuart was
a
saying
thing.
that a principal was asking for one thing and he was recommending something different.
I think what we need to do is, because none of us are experts on air conditioning either, I think that we need to trust the expert, who I assume would be Stuart, and have him come back with a bid.
And a recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've made it very clear over a couple of meetings that we want that installed before it gets hot, and I'm trusting that that's what's going
Sounds
to
like
happen.
we're all in agreement on that. And then on the technology infrastructure projects, personally, I think we should be moving forward on all 4 of those projects.
At 1.65 million.
I think Raymond said that it was going to be costing considerably less than the ones that he didn't know about were going to.
Right, which could go up, because they were done a couple years ago. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too, that's fine.
If we need to.
So we got to the bottom of those 3 bullet points. Related to staff stopgap measures, there was energy efficiency projects, which when I looked at this list and I see remove boiler, and there were a couple of things like that that seemed like maybe they were related to the energy efficiency projects and maybe never got done. And it seems like we would want to prioritize those. Is that correct, Stuart?
Boiler replacement we've already approved years ago. It's just a question of what funding source, and you're saying it's back at Fund 40. So we've already approved that. I don't think we need to take action, because we've already approved it.
Okay.
As far as double pane and all that stuff goes, we had already decided that those things did not make, there was not enough cost benefit sense, especially in light of the structure of our buildings. So those things were on hold. With regard to doors, I thought we were all looking at, there were like a few doors at each site that needed to be replaced, and it wasn't going to be an across-the-board thing, but I don't think we've ever approved replacement of X number of doors, and I don't know how, you know, it's certainly been on the list since day one.
Yeah, so doors, I remember last month, we did have all the doors, then it went down to 4. Then, for example, at Glorietta, last time we had some discussion about they have those back doors that are all glass and are not safe, both security-wise or whatever, and they're gonna break in through those doors. And so we requested to replace those glass doors. I don't know if those glass doors are 41 or how many there are, but I think we should be replacing those glass doors at Glorietta.
What about the glass windows?
Right next to the glass doors are all glass windows. All they have to do is break a window and open it and they're in.
Yeah.
So there was also discussion that that wasn't cost effective.
Okay, so, but if we do nothing, we are leaving that as a potential break-in situation, which has already happened. I don't know. I thought we were trying to, I mean, we could let Stuart explore it, just like,
There's some structural issues.
yeah, I mean, very commonly on a glass door, if you have a glass window next to a door, you replace the window right next to the door. You could put in, plywood right there, and then you're replacing the door and preventing that particular window right next to the door. I don't want to micromanage, but that would be a solution that would still allow us to have safer doors and not do nothing for a whole nother year, which is what may happen otherwise.
Stuart, do you see other items on these lists that could be accomplished you know, by the end of the summer that we haven't looked at? Or do you feel like we're pretty much booked up?
Well, my personal recommendation would be to look at what the principals have asked for. And if you approve those, most of those include training, include the stopgap measures, include opening the doors, and some other minor things. I don't know if you're going to do about the food area.
Yeah, we could go through the principal's highlighted projects for each school, but they're different in each school.
Our attention, for example, at OIS, they have a very real and pressing need to deal with the conversion of food service space.
That's true.
And that's the principal's recommendation, and it's a developer fee thing, not authority, but it's things that.
And is that to create a sixth grade food service area after we switch to the block schedule? Is that the idea behind that?
That's driven by the block schedule, and you don't have more students meeting at the same time, and you don't, overload their accommodations.
Well, that's a really good point. And if they do
And if they
need-
get it done.
Yeah, I think that one is definitely a priority. Could we just like look at one school at a time by looking at the highlighted principals' preferences? Or, I mean, I'm not sure
That's
how
what
we're
I
trying to
recommend.
conclude
If
this.
it's something that you object to very strongly, and strike it, you just say, we want to include these curriculums.
Mhm.
And you go page
Like, we were just talking about OAS, I don't think I see any problem with OAS other than what we already discussed in the
Well, I see a
AC
problem.
units.
One that's poured in place. Well, that's not gonna happen.
That's not OAS. OAS, I mean the shaded items. Because we just talked about just approving the shaded items. I don't have any problem with the shaded items at OAS.
And if you have questions or concerns with any one of the shaded items, you can strike it and move on from there.
Okay.
So Julie, that was kind of what I was getting to process-wise, is how you wanna,
Yeah.
how you
All
wanna
right,
tackle
then
it.
let's-
Because I need to know how we're gonna tackle it before I can kind of wrap my mind around how.
And let's do the highlights. So at Del Rey, paint exterior, we're approving. Stopgap measures, we're approving, pending better cost estimate, or cost, not estimate, but I guess it's an estimate. You're saying we've already approved the water line replacement,
And the roof.
and number 9.
So, quick question on that, I remember we were evaluating the water quality or something, was there a conclusion to that? Is it-
No, we're waiting for the laboratory to report back to us.
Oh, okay, and so the reason we're replacing the water line, I forget what the reason was for that.
It's for that reason that there's rust in that line. It's
Rust in the
galvanized
line.
pipe, and it's
Okay.
showing rusty water.
Okay,
And then they're recommending expanding the outdoor area next to the multipurpose for a lunch area.
what is that? I don't understand that. That seems-
There's an area adjacent to the multipurpose room, it's got a lot of tree roots on it, and we would want to do the surface so that they can put like picnic tables out there, and they can have an outdoor eating area.
On the shady side, on the parking lot side,
In the parking lots down.
which is right now grass and trees,
And that's right on grass.
and what would it change to?
Sidewalk in the building. We would do a combination of DG, decomposed granite, and concrete, or anything, so we would be able to, you have to take the roots out and create pads for tables to be,
How big an area would that be? I'm just trying to visualize.
pretty much the entire area from the walkway into the multipurpose room to the sidewalk.
Wow, so there wouldn't be any grass there then?
Might
So,
leave section, we need it down toward the street, but enough for putting a number of tables.
do they not have any place to eat outside now at Del Rey?
That's what I'm saying, they don't have an appropriate.
And they have to eat inside, it's not like they can eat out on the playground. Julie, do you have any comments, since you're more familiar with that school?
I don't know how, no, I don't. I've only got another year left there. How did that arise as becoming a new priority?
Doesn't have a number.
And I can see it because they don't have an outdoor area to eat, and it's nice apple lot. You know, I understand why they want to do it.
Yeah, I can understand it too. I was just surprised when you said it would be a whole lawn area. So if, you know, if they could leave some
Yeah.
lawn or some sort of landscaping toward the street, that seems like it would be a little more aesthetic. And also, you probably don't want kids eating right next to the sidewalks, people walking by and all that. You have to went over that block.
And then an outdoor chilled water, so that's like a hydro.
Yeah, they have some sort of water, but it's hot. and it's hot.
That seems expensive,
They
just
cost
for
about
water,
$5,000
but
to $6,000.
that's what they cost.
Every time, unfortunately.
Is this the same kind of thing they have at OAS, where it's like in the wall or something? No?
OIS are children. They are? Thank you.
Do we have one like this already in our district?
Yep.
I asked them a couple of other places, but it's not consistent. Some is just water, some is chilled.
Well, it's not that big a price, so that's what she wants, yeah. Now, she also shaded the portable thing at the bottom. Where are we with that?
That's something that we can postpone because we're dealing with it. We've got a year to bring that to fruition.
And I'd like to give direction if we have a majority to move forward, like to or continue pursuing it. You know, understanding that it's a year I need.
It would be really helpful at the next board meeting if I brought our proposals on architectural services and this, you know, potentially some problems vis-a-vis liquefaction and soil, maybe not. That needs to be a technical review, in which case that's a 3 or 4 month process. So, you know, the sooner we get started, then the less stressful it will be when get our order in early, enough feedback from all the stakeholders about what this thing is going to look like. I'd like to maybe invite the board to take a close look at what these huge 21st century buildings are. We've got some in other school districts. See what we're talking about first thing.
Yeah.
So that would allow us to move forward.
I'm fine with that. The only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about there is, again, the developer fees, and not that we shouldn't do this. We've been talking about doing this, but,
Once again, this is my estimate.
what's that?
But
Yeah, it's your estimate, I know.
But you're saying whether you can use developer fees?
Whether,
So
yeah,
you're
or
asking
whether
for
we
a
should,
legal opinion on that, or?
you know, I think we should understand that we want to go ahead with that project, but I'm not convinced that we should be using developer fees for all of it, and I think we should continue to consider that, and we could decide next month or whatever. That's what I was thinking.
Do we have 3 people who want to give that direction?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll chime in from afar. I would like to see, I'm very supportive, and I think the board showed consensus when we talked about future bond measures about getting these 21st century classrooms in place. I also agree that we should understand it more, kind of like getting back to stopgap measures and do what I think I heard Stuart say, is have a focused presentation on that. So if you're asking Julie for consensus, then we're asking to come back and move forward. I'm there.
Okay. Okay.
And then Julie, the only item on the Del Rey list that I'm not clear on is number 9, R&R classroom hallway roof. I'm confused as to what we've approved and haven't approved to this point as far as the total number. So have we approved the $568,000 number or just the $77,000 number?
The actual to-date cost, soft cost, that was in architectural fees and developing specifications by our GM, and there's a lot of work done, and we don't have a roof yet.
Mr. That cost is not
already
included in, it's already
Sorry,
accounted for in monies that we've designated for.
The 77,000,
Correct.
but not the 568,000.
That number was taken from the 540 list before. We are getting bids,
Okay.
and that the bids may come in
So Stuart, are you saying that 568 is not accounted for, that would be coming out of the 9.5 million? Or it is accounted for because it was an approved project? So it could go down, which could increase.
That is correct.
So it's been an approved, that's an approved number, that 568.
That's an improved number.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a high
Hopefully it will
number.
go down.
Probably
But it was
higher.
approved in terms of prioritizing. So you're saying you're gonna come back to us
With
with
a real.
the contract, and
Going out
since,
to bid, we've already put notice to bid out in the newspaper.
yeah, but I'm just pointing out, since we talked about it, we approved the 77,000 and then the
Yes.
concept of going in with the project, but, I mean, we don't have any idea what the detail of what they're proposing, other than, you know, sort of a general description.
This is the roofs.
Yeah, I know, the roofs, yeah. Mhm.
It would be nice to see this 21st century, like do a visit somewhere to see what they actually look like and up close.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to Glorietta with the paint exterior, so that's, we're approving. Stopgap measures, we were looking for a firm number. Replacing the 41 doors, I still don't really get the need on that one for replacing all the doors.
Might want to strike that. I talked to the principal about that, and as a builder and contractor, I know that there's a fundamental issue with the windows and the door, because you can replace the door with, you know, like a steel frame door, but it doesn't fit the windows, because the windows are made in a single pane plane. So you're putting a wider door next to a thin window frame, thing, so it doesn't really work. Unless you can figure out a way to, you know, carve out an area around it. So it may have to think about replacing all of those windows and the door as one project for each classroom, if you're going to do it. It's a huge expenditure, but that's the only structural way to solve that problem.
Yeah, well, we did replace one door, as it was mentioned last month. So I don't know if you think that's a problem, that one classroom that has a replacement solid door. You know, I do think it's important that we consider doing that. We don't, if you don't want to move ahead right now, we could wait, but I hope you could talk to the architect when you have a chance and ask him, you know, what other solutions are there other than replacing the entire thing, because the point is to make the door safer and security-wise. And then also, at one point, you reduced this to 4 doors or something. Is there 4 doors that are different that need?
This was an Ed Silva's recommendation.
Mhm.
He reevaluated it, and then he left as part of his legacy. Well, we'll just replace 4 doors instead of 41
okay.
doors.
All right, so you don't feel we
Stuart,
need
did
to do
I hear
any
you
of it?
say that you recommended just scratching this item for now?
Or at least putting it on hold, sort
That
of.
whole topic.
You can put it on hold.
So let's
and
put that on
then
hold.
bring back some
Okay.
real information to make a decision.
Okay, and now on
Alright.
the lower field irrigation, that, I don't remember that being,
It was something the principal said he wanted, that's the lower field, the irrigation system is very screwy. It doesn't water everywhere properly, so that, you know, you're always having to contend with a very poorly designed or dysfunctional irrigation system. So it would be to take it all up and redo it so it does what an irrigation system is supposed to do. So it's pretty expensive.
It doesn't include new drainage.
Yes.
It does.
It
So it's
does?
irrigation and drainage.
So, and then resodding the whole thing and,
Well, you really only have to trench where you're going to put the pipes that are going to have your sprinklers. You don't have to tear up the entire field, but big crisscross areas of it.
right, but I guess I know that needs to be done, that's been a problem, but it's also the field is in horrible shape now.
Yeah.
So, you know, we also, you know, in fixing it,
that's a bigger question. I don't know, my
Right.
daughter played a soccer game on at Pinole Middle School. They have a mini football field that's turf. It's like, wow. It's quite nice.
okay.
So on the, Julie, on the irrigation systems, just one board member's opinion, I think we should put that one on hold.
I kind of feel
First
that
time
way
I've
too,
seen it, it's a big
yeah. It would be nice to,
Because, Matt, I mean, I
It's
just
the first
remember-
time I've seen it, and it's a big number.
Well, I remember in the past, you know, us talking about improving the fields. It might have not have been
No, it's on for a future agenda items. It's on our rolling list of future agenda.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, we can put it on hold.
board field renovation issue.
Yeah, I like that, Julie, that we should do it across the board. You know, the field has been a big issue, and that is something that even with the change building, we can move ahead on.
Right. Okay, so let's put that specific item on hold, but remember that we have field renovation as a future agenda item, and then replacing all the windows again, I think.
That's why they're related to doors and windows, they can.
So we've already crossed that out.
Right,
Crossing
and
out.
that was across the board at every site, I don't know if it's still on
No.
the
Yeah.
list anymore, but it used to be.
Well, only here because they're integral, doors and windows.
And then as far as the new items under the developer fees, I mean, my personal feeling is I can see doing building 4 if it's determined that based on enrollment, we need a classroom space. At the same time, if there's another way to address that, I could see rolling that into a 21st century classroom thing a year from now. So I think, I don't know. And the same with 8 and 9, I think if you're going to replace those, why wouldn't you want to do it in the same STEM model that we're looking at for Del Rey? So, maybe building 4, since it's the oldest building and you could make 2 classrooms out of it. Again, maybe that would make sense.
And my understanding is that Stuart's recommendation is taking a look at that.
Right, so let's
Yeah.
look
Let's
at that
support
based
that.
on whatever, enrollment numbers you come up with, based on overall district enrollment, and, that's kind of where I think we should be on that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense also to look at replacing that number 4 and making it the bigger room. I just want to add, you said something about a partition, it could be a double wide partition. If we do a double wide, we need to make sure it could work for 2 classrooms.
Right, it'd be like one of these partitions to divide this for.
So if you have 2 classes in it though, 20 kids here, 20 kids there,
Yeah.
are they not going to hear, is there enough soundproofing? I don't know, okay. So just look at those options, but I think the most important thing is to consider what could we do this summer, and then on that, and I agree, 8 and 9 would be more the 21st century, and come the following year, or whatever, when Del Rey's.
Jason, did you have any comments?
That's kind of along the lines where we're going. I think we should keep, as much as possible, we should do these changes as a 21st century comprehensive approach. I feel like Orinda has immediate needs that, are tugging us. I'd like to wait as long as possible.
Well, that's why I think if we get, the better enrollment numbers and look at enrollment across the district and come up with some recommendations about whether, we truly have this urgent need that would need to be addressed for the coming school year versus can it be something that could be put off a year and replaced with like the 21st century modular system.
Well, I just want to say, I think Gloria already has clearly an issue, and we've heard about that, and I am not in favor of putting it off as long as possible to consider whether we could put a new portable there instead of 4, which could be a double
We
wide.
heard that there's an issue.
What's that?
How did we hear there's an issue? You're just saying based on.
I as board member got several emails today, and I know all of you did, because various people copied all of us, and pointed out that they hadn't had TK there for 2 years going on, another year would be 3 years, that there is no other classroom for growth. There is, it's my understanding, there is kids registering for TK at that school site, so.
I know, but we still don't know what the district-wide numbers look like.
District-wide, yeah.
We only had TK in 2 sites this past year, right?
But can't we kind of operate on 2 tracks, which is 1, we're watching for enrollment, number
Yeah.
2, Stuart's going out and getting a number for number 4?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but-
just saying that I could see the benefit of trying to wait and trying to make it a 21st century classroom. That's all I'm saying. If we can't wait because of enrollment issues, then you do this, which gives you the 2 classrooms on the site of 1, basically.
It sounds to me like what Stuart was saying was you could replace building 4 now with what would be a much larger space and have 2 classrooms. We could do that now, and that would meet an immediate need, and then we could do the 21st century classrooms on the.
Right, I'm just saying that if there's a way of meeting enrollment needs without replacing the classroom into a 2-classroom situation this year, then you could make it so that you're getting 3 21st century classrooms.
Are you saying meeting enrollment needs by shuttling Glorietta kids off to?
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know about TK, whether they have enough for 4 sites, like, I don't know what the numbers are, I haven't seen them, so I don't know if there's enough for TK at 4 sites, TK at 2 sites, TK at 3 sites, like, I just don't know.
But
That's
Julie,
why we're getting
what I
extra.
really want to see is that the board has an opportunity to weigh in on that and make that decision, so that this would be on our agenda again next month. The way I heard you describe, well, if we can solve it with enrollment numbers, it sounds like, you know, the administration basically could decide that it's okay, we can divert
I expect
students
the
elsewhere.
administration to make a recommendation about enrollment, addressing enrollment needs.
I do too, and as a board member, I would like them to make that recommendation to us, and I would like us to have an opportunity to weigh in. I just want to be crystal clear about that. Thank you.
So going to Sleepy Hollow, we've got the stopgap measures, we've got the paint exterior, which we're approving. We've already approved the underground water line, the intercom system's part of technology. NPR restroom access is non-compliant, is that a new item?
No, it's been there.
Okay.
15.
But we've never approved that?
No.
Okay, so what is?
Which restroom? Aren't there 2 in there? Boys and girls right in the entrance?
Yes.
What, do you know what the non-compliance, is it just like, they need
Probably.
the size of the stall?
Just an ADA stall, ADA louder.
Okay, well, I'm comfortable.
I just like to see a hard price on that.
Okay, so let's move forward with getting a hard cost on that item 15. Does that sound? Okay. We've already approved the roof on the breezeways and the office in K2. So that's it on the highlighted list.
Hey, Julie, I have one question on Sleepy Hollow. I didn't have an opportunity to ask before. Maybe Stuart can address. Is there when he comes back with the 21st century classroom plans, is there an opportunity for that at Sleepy, given the modular system there?
It's looking very thoughtful.
I think the concern has been that the oldest portables are at Delray and Glorietta, and the ones at Sleepy aren't as old. That doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't. I think it's just been a question of urgency of something built in the 60s versus, you know, I don't even know, you guys have.
Yeah, I'm looking
tabs.
at the list we have with the dates on it, and the oldest one I see at Sleepy Hollow.
You have
is
the least
04.
ones that we bought out,
2000.
which
Oh, no,
were
it's
all on the newer side. I think 89 was your
89, yeah.
oldest one.
89 was the oldest.
So I think it's because of that, because you have the ones from the 60s and the 70s. So I don't disagree with you, I just think it's been more like, you know, how bad shape some of them are in.
And that makes perfect sense to me. There's some good shape portables there. It's something we can think about since we're rolling out this idea long term.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, ideally, I think you'd want that at every site, right? So,
right,
you know. All right. So moving to Wagner, we've got stopgap measures, paint exterior. install retaining wall on playground slope asphalt, so that's done.
And for the sake of time, can we consider the kindergarten playground?
Yeah, kindergarten
Next
playground we will
agenda.
consider
on the-
next.
Is on the next
core in
agenda.
place, I think we're putting everything related to that on hold at this point, because we didn't address it on any other school site. Does that sound
Yeah, that sounds good.
legit?
Put that on
And then
hold.
the paint interiors, I mean, that is something we should talk about for all the sites, whether, would your thought be that that's something that would be a year away to do?
I think so, I think it's a little much.
Yeah, so I
It's
feel
really
like
got a lot on our plate
maybe
this
we
summer.
hold that, but keep that in mind for moving forward for next year, for next summer.
Yeah.
OIS. Remove wall and utility pipes in former kitchen. It's gonna be low cost.
Staff would be doing a lot of that work.
Mm.
Okay. Do I approve that one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm good with all of the principal recommended projects.
Stuart, do you really think that removing the walk-in's gonna cost $50,000?
No.
Good. I don't
Why
even-
do they want to remove the walk-in?
It's valuable
Here, you
space
can
that's not being
help
used.
explain this.
It's really valuable
Oh, it's the
space.
one
It's
at
been on the
kennel.
list for a
It's
long
not
time.
by the kennel.
That's real valuable space.
Got it. Okay, and then painting the exterior, that's done. Stopgap. Okay.
Last item at the bottom.
Okay, and then the conversion of the room to a food service. Well, if they are in need of that based on the block schedule, then I think
It's a
they,
huge item for the parents
yeah.
and for Boston.
I mean, I think that's definitely gonna change how lunch is delivered at school.
Yeah, and it seems like they would need extra tables over there, converting that room, so I
Okay,
hope we
so
could
we could get,
post
moving
it
along
to
on that.
accommodate that.
So we have
Can't be
consensus on that.
that
Okay.
expensive.
Okay.
Um, So I just want to make one last comment related to this issue, is that I agreed with the comment someone made about that we should also be planning for doing some more long-range facility planning, so I think we need to keep that in mind.
Okay, so this item is on for action. Who wants to craft it?
I do.
Of the
You're
items
the role.
the items we just discussed.
I move that we approve Fund 40 developer fees recommended priority projects as discussed by the board, including the first 3 bullet points on the first page: painting exterior of all schools, stopgap measures for pulling classrooms, after we get a chance to look at dollar figures, and the technology infrastructure projects. And then we went school by school, and at Del Rey, the only item that is highlighted that we didn't approve is the developer fee item to take out portables and replace with new. Going on to Glorietta, we did not agree to move forward on items 7, 21, 18, or the second of the 2 developer fee projects, replace aging portable rooms 8 and 9. Those will go to 21st century. At Sleepy Hollow, we voted to approve everything that's listed in gray / highlighted. Wagner Ranch, we're hitting the first 3 items that are highlighted. We're deferring on pour-in-place rubber and paint interior hallways. As well, we are deferring on the developer fee, expand, because it's the next item on our agenda, kindergarten playground. And lastly, at OAS, we are approving all 5 highlighted items.
All in favor?
Wait, I have one clarification discussion, right? So on the page about Glorietta, you mentioned we removed the room 8 and 9. So what did we do with the other one that says modernize for kindergarten growth? That
Stuart's
seems
gonna
like
come back to us
it's
with the hard cost and make sure it's feasible to accommodate, if we need it, to classrooms.
and that's for coming back soon?
Next month.
Okay, because we didn't really discuss that, and I just want to add,
if we are going, I'm gonna want to see what that looks like, and I know we have a site visit there tomorrow, but if we were to do that, are we getting rid of all the, special ed
Okay, we have a
spaces?
motion and a second and a vote, so.
Okay,
we can move on here.
You don't have to vote for it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. We'll now move on to action item E, Wagner Ranch Kindergarten Playground Expansion.
I wanted to begin by reviewing, it's kind of hard to see, but I'll read it, with the projected timeline and what,
Here, I have a copy.
On February 8th, the board approved the contract with the architects and landscape architect Gates and Associates to move ahead with a kindergarten playground project. On the 19th of February, March 3rd, March 16th, and March 23rd, there were meetings held with stakeholders that included teachers, parents, the principal, architects, landscape architects, the teaching assistants, and to develop the planning process for a playground. On the 31st, there was a large group meeting with parents and teachers and others who came through and participated in the selection process for the kind of play elements that they thought would be needed for the playground. Tonight we are presenting a conceptual plan to the board, and I guess I want to underscore conceptual as opposed to your approving a budget. We would like to bring back on May 9th a real opinion of probable cost, which would include the cost parameters. If you think my estimation of $500,000 is too much and you'd like to pare it down, it's your prerogative, of course, to do that, as well as you would have an opportunity to select or deselect any of the play elements if you think that will reduce costs. But I believe that by the time we revisit the probable cost, that the number will be much lower because I'll have had a chance to get some CMAS numbers and get a realistic idea of what the project will cost. In addition, at the May 9th meeting, I'd like to be able to hit the ground running with this project, bringing back to you a demolition contract so that that could start when school is out on June 13th. So the first part of this would be done, and then follow that with, at the June 13th board meeting, with the competitive bids for the project itself, including the CMAS contracts, so that we could start demolition on June 13th and start construction in mid-June so we could finish the project this summer. So that's the plan. I want to underscore again that this evening I'm asking you to approve the concept that's been through this process involving all the stakeholders, a lot of meetings, a lot of very deliberative thinking about what we should do, including input from the kids, which was pretty marvelous. In order to present the concept, I have with me this evening Linda Gates, Vice President of Gates and Associates, who will present the concept for your approval.
Now, can you get me into that PowerPoint? Okay, the button point. This doesn't have a laser built into
came prepared.
You didn't get it in. Bear with us for 1 minute, maybe load this up right now. There are a few people in the audience that participated in some of the stakeholder meetings, and thank you guys for lingering long, that's really great. And it was really great working with people, sort of really thinking about how we're going to do a play area, how we can make it something more. So, with that, I'm going to just jump in here because I know we're going to have questions. So, everybody's familiar with Wagner School. So we started with the existing play area and we looked around at how we could expand it. So what we've done, and I'm sorry the colors are not that great, but I'm going to walk up here for 1 quick second to see it. It's just not using very well. Can you guys hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what we did is we looked at these areas where there's sort of lawn in the front of the school, and right now you have sort of 2 driveways going in and coming out, and it's a little confusing. And we said, if we can expand the play area and remove these parking stalls and relocate in these areas, right now the playground area is about 4,200 square feet. By expanding this way and going a little bit this way, there's sort of a buffer between the existing hard court and that, like sort of picking up all the available space, we're able to gain about 3,000 square feet, which is significant in terms of space that you gain with that play area. And is really important because you right now have really having to stagger a lot of different times people can go out and play and snack and such. It's like they're trying to do the best they can, but we really, it's not just a function of putting in new play equipment. We had to rethink and expand the space to really accommodate.
So we're going from 4,200 to 7,200.
Yeah,
Great.
and those are approximate
Yeah, that's fine.
kind of numbers, so we were able to pick up more space. So then what we went through is a process one that we looked at. If we expand this, what kind of play activity, what I think we all are getting with the environment and physical play really nurtures sort of what happens in the classroom. So just to sort of, just down at me. I'm sorry, this is oriented a little bit different, but you can see, so we basically are picking up all this area, and we were able to stand out and pick up a little bit of area there. The really cool thing about that too is there were a lot of existing trees that were outside of the play area that we're able to put inside. Because the other comment, they're like, we need some shade, we need to feel like there's some nature in the play area, you know, so we're able to accomplish that too by just expanding the space. So this is really as a diagram, and what it's being used for was to discuss when somebody said, can we do that? Would it fit? You know, it was just sort of a function of how much space do things need, because we didn't want to sort of design something, and then also functional relationships. For example, swing was really desired, but we wanted to stick it off to the corner so activities like trike riding stuff could happen without running across it, or different kinds of uses, and we'll go with that. So this is not by any means a final design, but really much more about looking at the relationships of things, because you know, it's one thing to look at abstractly, but when you see it considered. So programmatically, so this is the building, this is the new parking, you have sort of a hard court area, you have a shade structure that we're putting some picnic tables underneath, 3 to 4 tables underneath so they can accommodate snack and outdoor class or such like that. You're going to have basically what is sort of your play area, and there's different kinds of play elements that we'll talk about in the presentation. We're adding in some lawn area into the space, getting the existing trees incorporated, and adding a second exit out of the playground. Because right now, in an event of emergency, you really don't have a second way to get out of the playground. So these are all sort of things that were coming up through that process. So then we went and said, okay, let's talk about play events, and what I'm going to share with you is what emerges as priority play events. And I think you came there, like we had so many events and stuff that were people like we talked about. So early on, one of the things that the teachers thought was really important is sort of like a little village area. Not every kid runs around at high speed, a lot do. So they promoted some of that imaginative play, social interactions. So they wanted to create different kinds of play opportunities that foster the different growth patterns and different sort of energy levels that people have. So one of the things was to create some kind of little village area. So this is something that we're trying to accommodate. You see where that little red dot. So the village area is nearer to where the shade structure is a little bit quieter and less high speed. Okay. Other things that are really important were obviously upper body development, and we wanted to have a variety of different upper body development opportunities. because you have such a wide range in kindergarten about skill levels, but they're all needing to do that. So one area that we miss is a lot of times upper body, and then climbing. So these were sort of things, and these would be incorporated into, there's elements that really specifically mentioned to be incorporated into sort of the central play area. Then we also talked about off to the side of that path in that lawn area, underneath the shade of the trees, bringing in some kind of these musical play features. Once again, tying into music and math are so related, so kind of trying to expand that and add to other activities for other children. And this is related towards the parking lot versus the school. Sorry about that. Because of the noise. But these are really fun. We've done these in a couple places. It's really fun. Thank you. As I mentioned before, shade was really critical. So in addition to the trees, we wanted to have a sort of formal all-weather shade area where the tables could be. And then also shade, more of a fabric shade structure over portions of the play area, you know, because kindergartens have a harder time with temperature regulation, you know. They don't know they're getting too hot, so they're literally lying on the ground. So. And swings, we all discussed sort of the challenges of swings and back and forth, really the kinesthetics of it, the sort of, you know, learning and taking turns and all that. If we could fit it any way they wanted to, by the night, as I said, tucking it back in the corner so it was part of it, but was not someplace. I'm not guaranteeing that a kindergarten won't walk into the swing area, but someplace where it wasn't a constant problem, it was easily supervised. That was another criteria, locating things with sightline supervision, you know, those kind of, I can't tell you how many great comments and input they had. Manipulation. You guys all know being able to manipulate sand and such is a huge part of play. So it's a combination of sort of something that's higher, so you have to meet ADA, and then lower, it's coverable was also a really high priority. The ability to manipulate, playing on all those different senses. And balance. Once again, a bunch of different balance elements. Some that are, you know, curving around, climbing until it's to this bottom one, what kind of wobbles a little bit. So it's different levels of challenges they master it. But this is upper body and balance are both really important skills that enhance learning in children. They've done research. All the kids love the domes. And parents, teachers, and students all love the, you know, the climbing sort of dome. I think they can climb all over it. They can be inside of it. You know, if you do anything, we have to do the dome. You know what I mean? It's like that we have to do. And then obviously some kind of, you know, this all links together as some kind of play element. Like the idea of slides, wanted to have two slides, did not want to have slides next to each other, but sort of like parallel, but no, you can't touch anybody while you're going down. And finally, we are doing like paving, putting in new safety surfacing, putting in new concrete. We've done this other places. It's not that expensive element to do that you'd add some kind of design in your paving, or, and here one of the things, we've done like paw prints and different things, and here they said they thought it would really be great to do hello in a bunch of different languages. And you just, you know, you just sandblast it in, but I love the idea of serendipitous learning. Like you're not even paying attention to it and you're learning. So we're hoping to do some of those kinds of elements there. And that's all I got to share with you. So what we'll be doing is, you know, based on your input tonight, kind of blending, refining, getting to the reality when you put those kinds of things and kind of tightening up budget numbers and stuff. But we love input from you if there's some things that you want to comment on.
Thank you. Okay. So take it for questions. So I have sort of an initial question just about, you know, you presented this to us originally as being something we needed to do because of enrollment expansion there, and I'm just wondering what the legal requirements are as far as size and what weren't we needing?
There's the standard is 75 square feet per student, and the enrollment looks like we are at 65, where are you, Jim? Can you help me?
So the answer to the enrollment question is, we this year have 3 kindergarten classes for 60 kids instead of 2. Well, we expanded by a class, so we have 3 kindergartens for 60 kids, plus transitional kindergarten at 20. And all those children use this play area. As it is now, all 4 classes don't use it at once because of space issues. It'd be really advantageous if they could. They might not do that all the time. Right now, TK takes their kindergarten, takes their recess at a different time than kindergarten. And the other 5, oftentimes they're special day class kids. Currently there's 5 play on this yard as well. So there's 85 potential kids. And enrollment is still being developed. But we expect, for our preliminary look at things, a similar class setup next year. 3 kindergartens, a TK, and of course a special day class.
Okay, thank you.
So that came up to 6375 feet, if 85 kids were out there.
And how big is it right now?
42, give or take.
And what does it come to with this?
Could be up to 70.
Stuart, didn't, as I was passing your office between closed and open, did I hear you say something about the actual cost seems to be coming down?
Yes, that is true. What we get is a preliminary opinion of probable costs, which I now have, but it's not something that's, it's a preliminary thing. So I can tell you what that preliminary number is, but it's in the area of 383, I think. So it's, but that's just for the play area, and I have to add for it's, well, actually it's 334. It doesn't include parking lot, which I'm guessing would be about, or estimating to be about 60,000. So we're right at about 400,000.
And did you look at options that didn't involve you doing the parking lot?
Yes, we did. We looked at, first of all, extending the parking area on that side opposite into the blacktop area, so that
Go back to this one?
Yeah. We looked at originally extending the parking into the blacktop this way and removing the storage containers that are over here. So you'd have cars parked all the way down here. And we thought that presented problems.
So you're saying without going into the parking lot, you don't have enough space
Right.
to expand?
Right. And the other option we looked at was, instead of expanding the kindergarten area this way, putting it on the other side, but that presented problems because there's significant change in elevation. There's a sidewalk there, there's some trees, there's some utilities. It just was much more complicated and costly. We'd have to put in a retaining wall to account for that difference in change in elevation. So this, which was proposed by the architect, made more sense. It also gives us the benefit of changing the configuration of this driveway, which was originally put in because we had two-way traffic going up and down that hill. We could turn this way, so there's a very awkward turn back this way, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you make it just a simple 2-lane parking area this way, the traffic in and out, and you've added these spots, and it works much better. It's a benefit, and you actually gain, I believe it's 4 parking spaces.
We're hoping when we do it all, we gain.
By doing this, so there's a benefit because of growth of teachers and parents too.
One thing you didn't mention, Stuart, is whether you explored going out toward into the playground as opposed to.
This way.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about expanding the play area this way, and that's, again, seemed to be intrusive into that play area. So we best configuration that we could recommend.
And since the questions seemed like it started about costs and looking at options other than the playground and costs, and then what about other options for lower costs, even expanding that footprint, for example, the demolition versus just expansion type of issue?
That's something we could revisit. If I talked to Jim about that, he was saying, well, maybe we can make this area a little bit smaller. Maybe we can have less play elements. Or, there are all kinds of ways to massage the design to reduce costs. But it would be helpful if the board gave us some direction in terms of parameters of what you thought was a reasonable number to go to. I think that between using CMAS, the state funding mechanism to reduce costs, and value engineering a number of things, or we can take out some of the play elements, or we can, once we get some real bids in, we'll be able to see what the actual costs are. Maybe save even more money.
Just to clarify, I wasn't thinking of reducing the space or taking out play elements. I meant more like, instead of redoing what is already there, like the current sandbox trellis, there's pavement there now.
Reuse. That's
Well,
also possible.
instead of demoing that and redoing it,
That's also possible.
maybe,
That
that
would
could
be
be
a value
left.
engineering.
Yeah,
type
that's the
thing.
type of thing, yeah, so
Yes,
I did want to
we try and
address.
do that. It's worth looking at.
Yeah, and just to
It doesn't-
clarify, I'm not,
What we were trying to do with, say, the concrete was to provide some colorful, color concrete.
yeah,
We can paint it, and not take out so much concrete. There are other ways to approach that. That's true.
yeah, and it
That's the
looks
value
great.
engineering
I'm not
aspect of it.
I'm not trying to criticize it, it looks great. I'm just, I wanted to address some process issues, and maybe this is a good time. That it does look great, and, my concern was more, and just the process of having this on our agenda, and you said you wanted approval on the concept. But if we approve the concept, we're approving going ahead with, whatever this costs. And when I first saw the proposal that we had to hire the architect and it said alternatives, I assumed we were gonna be talking about alternatives in terms of how to expand it, things like let it go into the parking lot or the playground, and also cost effective, here's a more expensive version that's nicer, here's a less expensive version. That's what I thought we were gonna be looking at now, was those types of alternatives. But, so that's one thing I just want to say, and even though, it feels very awkward to me as a board member to be in this position of having to vote on this now, because there's been 4 meetings at the school site where there's been a certain amount of input, and this particular plan has gotten this level of traction. But again, I'm not criticizing the plan, but I do have concerns about using developer fees for all of it. And as I stated before, what kind of precedent that sets, and also the total budget. If there's, ways we can reduce costs,
So we
that's
can
great.
just focus on the questions right now, and then have a discussion after we go to public comment.
Okay,
if
so
there's
you want me to
other
frame that in the way of a
No, I just
question?
want to know if you have other questions, or
Do
you're
I have
just ready
other
to try to
questions?
discuss it.
Well, other questions, I guess, would be, I don't know who to direct this question to, but if we approve this project, what do we, it may come back, even if it's less, it may come back still significantly expensive. And then what is the implication for other schools in terms of those directors and all that? How do we as a board address that moving forward? I don't know who that question goes to, but that's a question I have in mind that I think we need to consider.
Well, I think we're just being asked to approve a concept here. expressed a great deal of excitement about this and did a lot of work and research on this. And I even more appreciate, Stuart, that there are ways to reduce the costs. I love this concept. I think it's very exciting. And we're not making a final approval to sign contracts or anything. We're going to be getting bids, and that's an opportunity to give the final go-ahead would be.
Any other questions? Jason, do you have any questions?
I do not.
I have one more question,
Okay.
which is, if we decide, since my concern is developer fees, and using that much developer fees for this one project, I guess the other question is, if we wanted to, we could decide to not use the entire amount as developer fees, but also Pulte funds. I think that's something we should continue to consider as we move forward, because, for example, at Wagner, even though there's another kindergarten portable was put in and we're expanding this, we may still have more enrollment. What if we needed another portable a few years out? That this is, about 2 years of our development fee money in terms of prioritizing development fee money. So we do need to consider, if we're going to use development fees for this kind of thing, are we planning, the future, and, are there any other restrictions in terms of needing to use? That's kind of a question for Teresa that I just remembered. Is there any restrictions about needing to use developer fees within a certain time period of when we collected them? I'm not clear on that.
I could just answer from here.
Okay.
But there isn't, just as long as we're reporting out on the fees that we have received and what we've spent them on. We did a February meeting where we did a 5-year on how much money we received, what the carryover balance was, and what we spent it on. You cannot spend the developer fees on routine repair and maintenance. You cannot spend it on deferred maintenance projects, or salaries.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other questions, I'm going to take it to public comment. I have one speaker card from Ari Hatton.
Yep, Ari Hatton. Hi. So I'm Ari Hatton, and I have a TK student at Wagner Ranch. We have absolutely loved it so far. I've had the privilege of working on the kindergarten playground renovation committee since its inception, and it has been such a thoughtful group come together. We've shared ideas and come up with I think is an exceptional plan for our kids to get some exercise and learn in a social and physical way. I realize that it's quite a plan that we've put together. As the playground now stands, I wish there were pictures of how it looks now, because I don't want to sound judgmental, but it's sad, it's underwhelming, and it's small. And my TKer spends much of her precious recess time waiting in a queue behind 2 swings. And the kids spend their entire time waiting behind those swings, and when they get on, they get to count to 20 Wagner Ranch, and they get off. That is how a lot of kids are spending their recess time, and I think we can do a lot better than that. Our kids should have the space to run and jump and climb. They should have a creative place to play with sand and explore musical instruments, and quiet spots to chat with friends on the grass and under trees. The space we created does all of this and more. It is a play and learning yard that I wish every child their age had access to. And I know the price tag is significant, but my thoughts on that are construction of significance is always pricey. It's an investment in our kids, our community, and a sign that Orinda makes our children a priority. I understand that these funds come from construction permits, and my family is the family that moved out of San Francisco to give our children the best we could provide, and we chose Orinda, and we've contributed to those construction permit fees, and we've made a home and a community around us. And these improvements are exactly what these funds are for. While volunteering in my TKers classroom, something has become very apparent to me, and I don't think it was so much an issue when I was a kid, a long, long time ago. Children seem like they have a harder time sitting still and focusing, and I'm not sure if that is all the technology that's around them. Maybe they watch too much television, there's a lot of like laying around, and God, there's so much sugar in foods, it's outrageous. But I really see that adding such a really awesome play space gets them out in fresh air, gets them, you know, in a space that's stimulating, and I think that this plan creates that. The other thing I'd like to say is, you know, $400,000 seems like a lot of money, but this plan is not just expanding a sad playground. It's adding parking spaces. It's fixing a egress that is confusing and wasteful on space. It's adding an additional safety exit, which we don't currently have. So right now, that's not so awesome the way it stands. I just, I think it's actually an excellent value. And that's all.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have another speaker card from Charles Shannon.
I think the proposed TK plan is every kid's dream. It's quite impressive. We may not have so many families minding their redirect to Wagner Ranch, so we may not need the double-wide portable at Glorietta. Might solve two things at once. I think I'd like my kid to be there too. At Glorietta, we've been talking about a comprehensive safety plan, and I just want to make the board and interim superintendent aware that I think you need to talk to the Orinda Police Department and ask about what do you need to do along the area where the drive-through is, because it is really close to the exit that goes you know, onto the main road, and we have our youngest kids right there. I didn't hear anything about the type fencing and the greenery that's going to be put in there, but I would have a concern about that. My youngest, you know, if my youngest kids were in that playground area, how are they going to be kept safe? So I think that's a consideration. It is a lot of money. It made me think that our Glorietta kindergarten area is pretty sad and small. And I would hope that when it comes up for a remodel of that play area, that we will look forward to using developer fees and general fund money for that. Thank you.
Thank you. One more speaker card, Jim Mannheimer.
Thank you folks for considering this enormous possibility for our school. And it first came to light as I started walking campus in August. You know, lots of people said, this yard's inadequate, this yard's inadequate. And I completely agree, it is inadequate, and especially given the expanded number of kids we've got. According to our historian, Anita Scalise, that in 1998, when the school was recommitted to being an elementary school, there was the thought of expanding, making a bigger playground. And apparently, the walkway that I'll call to the north between this playground and the upper grade pods was the proposed, it was going to expand into that, it was going to include that space. And then it was decided that was necessary for safety to have that as a walkway. And currently there's very few attractions out there. Our current yard has a basketball hoop, which is against a classroom wall, the exterior wall of the classroom. It's got a play structure, which is mostly platform. It doesn't have a lot of things for the kids. There is some climbing, there is slides, but it's